I can't even tell anymore. I think we're live. We're live. It says you're live. Excellent.
Okay.
I'm much more used to doing Twitch. It's been a while since I was on YouTube Live. But hey, yeah, we're live, guys, on the YouTube. And we did it. We officially did a company. Woo! That's the technical term, right?
Hey, high five.
Yeah, that's how I
five.
filled out the paperwork with the accountant.
We did a company.
Yeah.
One company, please.
Oh, hold on. It's coming up on YouTube.
Right, let me just share this link.
There we go. There we go. I can see it.
Live now. It's cool. Yeah. So, yeah, we just thought we'd have a chat, didn't we? We thought it'd be a thing that we could do. Talk about all the amazing stuff.
So I'll just start by saying we recorded the video that's currently on our socials, on Kristian's Brain. And then I had everything to go on Kristian's Brain. I had everything to go on Minor Disaster, apart from an Instagram post, because the software I was using to like schedule the post wouldn't let me add music, and I really wanted to add music to the Minor Disaster one. So I put it in a draft on Instagram, and I was just like, totally fine. I'm gonna just wait until like 9:30 today, and I'm just gonna go into my draft and open my draft. I'm gonna submit it. In theory, that was the plan. And then what happened is like 9:20, I went in, and he went, "We haven't got any drafts. What are you on about?" And I was like, "No, damn it." So
there haven't been drafts around here for 10 years.
It was just me just going, okay, I'm trying to work. I have to answer the phone that's ringing, and also just put this tweet together. And I was like, I put it in my notes. It's in my notes, so I'm going to copy it from my notes. Yeah, it's fine.
Fun time.
Is the music worth it? What are we going for?
Well, I put another post out with the music because I was just like, I like the music. I want. And it was OK Go, they have the song "It's a Disaster." Well, that was kind of in my head because I was like, it was from Minor Disaster. It's a disaster. I like it. So I just wanted to post the first thing on Minor Disaster with that music, and it didn't work. So it was an actual Minor Disaster. It's fine.
And let's be honest, it'll be the first of many. So.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm not to downplay this business or anything like that. We're gonna absolutely smash it, guys. But
we're gonna I just think it's quite nice to just start from like a place of truth. This is
we're keeping this as apt as humanly possible.
Yeah. Well, every time that we mess up, we're gonna tell you.
Yeah. Well, we bounced around. I think let's start with, because how we got here is that we've been working on this game for a decade, which is a ludicrous amount of time. And it's kind of been, I don't know quite what suddenly galvanized us. It was probably, actually, to be fair, it was probably me being made redundant that galvanized the like, well, let's take it upon ourselves to suddenly like put some serious time into actually trying to make this happen. So we knew that we needed, so we had a discussion after the UK Games Expo, didn't we? We were like, this has been fun and all, but what are we actually doing?
Yeah.
We're not just goofing around here. So how do we want to present ourselves? And I didn't necessarily want Kristian's Brain to be the name of whatever company it is that we are forming, because that's kind of me. And the two reasons behind that is that I didn't want to basically just lose Kristian's Brain, because suddenly it would have become a corporate entity that we would have to manage properly. And two, I didn't think that I was necessarily a very good face for a company. So we needed a more serious and more official kind of side to things. And that's kind of the conclusion that we had, this long conversation that we had. at the end
Should,
of the last day. The last day, wasn't it? The very end of the expo when things
The
were
very
closing
last
down.
day, yeah. So we
sat
had
sat
like
in
a
hall
series
3.
of meetings, or I had a series of meetings with like distributors and printers and all these sorts of things. There's to talk about the actual process of making this. Caley, you had loads of meetings with people who had like just successfully gone through that process of launching themselves and launching a successful Kickstarter. And I sort of like amongst all of this, we sort of all collectively had like a crushing the crushing realization that underneath all of this, we actually didn't have like a foundation in place that meant that like we had like a limited company that we could then reach out to these companies if it ever got to that point. We've been focusing so much on the research and development and the play testing of this particular one game that we're working on, that suddenly when we start talking to these other people, the idea that we needed, that there was actually going to be like product that was going to be shipped out at some point in time, that we're going to be dealing with China at some point in time for like international like that, and suddenly there's people talking to me about, well, have you considered what the import tax is when you sell into Europe and things like that? And I'm like, well, we decided that some of the pieces will be blue. I think that's the realization that we've got to. And all the while having these conversations with these people, like desperately trying to sort of like wear a mask of professionalism. So at the end of the expo, we were like, let's actually have professionalism to some degree.
Yeah, I think during the expo and all of the other sort of conventions we've been to with Trouble on the Tempest, because we've been there as KristiansBrain, I feel like Kristian obviously looks a lot like the logo that you created for him, Liam. So I could just be like, this is Kristian. And then I started at like in the expo going, this is Kristian and I'm the brain. Like I just started to kind of go, and it felt like going forward that we needed something that was like all three of us and like us all working together. And I kind of realized that some people that might be tuning into this, do you think some of them might not have seen the video? And do you think anybody doesn't know who we are? And maybe we should like say who we are.
Oh,
apart from
certainly.
Kristian.
Almost
They know Kristian.
Yeah, we should definitely do the in sync introduction of the company as we did in the video. Oh no, we're in a different order on the screen now.
First take, 100%.
100%.
To be fair, I think we only tried it twice, and it probably is the first one I used because it was the funnier one.
Yeah, I was posting on like an Instagram thing last night about like people were talking about like making videos for Kickstarters and for like promotion and things, and I was just saying that I feel like I'm doing it. I feel like whenever there's a camera in front of me, I go, these are my hands, look at them move, and I just can't keep still, and it's just like horrendous. So I think that I want to just kind of go, this is the name of the company, Jazz Hands, and it's horrible. So shall we?
Apparently, we're getting an echo. Tony's telling me. Tony, hello. Tone's in the chat. Hello. We are getting an echo apparently, but I don't know why.
Oh, is it potentially from me in the other room?
Have you got your speakers on instead of? That shouldn't help effect, but maybe you should be headphonesing a bit. But I don't know why that. If that why that would make a difference.
I can switch. Just a sec.
I'm gonna close the door.
That won't make a difference. It'll be a. Let me try monitoring it for a second, see what it sounds like. It'll be a.
Close the door. Did that stop the problem?
I'm on headphones now as well, so that's hope we'll find out.
It'll be a.
Close the door.
I can't hear it when I check
Stop
it.
the problem.
I'm on headphones now as well, so that's hope we'll find out.
It'll be a.
Close the door.
I can't hear it when I check
Stop
it.
the problem.
I'm on headphones now as well, so that's hope we'll find out.
Oh yeah, we're getting a strange one.
Close the door.
That is an odd one. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry, this will take 2 seconds to fix.
You better.
I was like, it's your thing, right? Not me.
Say something, Liam.
Something, Liam.
Yeah, it's broadcasting you and Caley on the same.
Can I genuinely get you with that, Caley?
Yeah.
It's for some reason it's broadcasting you and Caley on each other's channels as well. I don't know why.
Ow.
It's never done that before, and I've done this, Skyped it up a bunch of times.
Just the minor disaster we were talking about.
It's just turned Caley into me very briefly. Alright, Caley's back.
Good.
It's still doing it. I cannot account for why it's doing that.
Do we need to mute anything else? I'm happy to fiddle around.
But I have to assume that that's the problem.
I could put on headphones if that would fix anything.
I don't know why it would though, because it's basically it's both of you being broadcast on each other's audio channels. But there's no logical reason it would do that. Anyway, well.
Is it fixed? Do it now?
Well, the only thing I can do is switch you both off and switch just my desktop audio on. So I'm gonna mute you. You guys chat for a second. And I'm gonna mute my Skype so I can hear you. I mean, so I can monitor. I'm gonna mute you. You guys chat for a second. And I'm gonna mute my Skype so I can hear you. I mean, so I can monitor. I'm gonna mute you. You guys chat for a second. I'm gonna mute my Skype so I can hear you. I mean, so I can monitor. I'm gonna mute you. You guys chat for a second. I'm gonna mute my Skype so I can hear you. Why aren't you talking? I mean, so I can monitor. I'm gonna mute you. You guys chat for a second. I'm gonna mute my Skype so I can hear you. Why aren't you talking? I mean, so I can monitor. I'm gonna mute you. You guys chat for a second. I'm gonna mute my Skype so I can hear you. Why aren't you talking? Okay, well, absolutely nothing is coming through. I'm gonna mute you.
Is it worth us just ending it and starting again?
Honestly, I don't know. It might just be YouTube just being a bit strange. But I'm going to mute Skype again. You guys actually talk.
We are actually talking.
You weren't when I first asked you to, right? You guys talk, and I will check YouTube again.
First of all, Kristian, you told us to talk and then muted Skype. So I don't know how you're judging whether we're talking or not. I feel like there's a lot of negative energy coming from this side of the room.
You just sort out your tone.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe we'll reform this company.
Yeah, when I said should we end it, I meant the YouTube live, not the actual company.
Oh, I've already paid for it, I'm afraid.
Work under these conditions.
Reform this company. That's not. It's not a very good sign for our business, is it? That like the first
the actual company.
Oh, I've already paid for it, I'm afraid.
Work under these conditions.
Reform this company. That's not. It's not a very good sign for our business, is it? That like the first
the actual company.
Oh, I've already paid for it, I'm afraid.
Work under these conditions.
Reform this company. That's not. It's not a very good sign for our business, is it? That like the first
the actual company.
Oh, I've already paid for it, I'm afraid.
Okay, I'm muting you all, and I don't know why it's being terrible, but it is. But I don't know what's going on. I've muted everyone but me now. I don't know what's wrong with our setup, but I might just kill Skype and start again with that. So you're going to just have me for a second, YouTube. Just enjoy me, enjoy my rambling nonsense for a minute while we restart the Skype call. All right, bye guys. All right, so move their frozen faces. So yeah, so the intention here tonight is for us to chat about the formation of the company and just like have a little bit of a huzzahs to us for having officially started the YouTube the board game company Minor Disaster Games. But for some reason it keeps bouncing back and forth, so I'm going to try and start that Skype call again, and I will sync them back in. So they will join me. You won't be able to hear them or see them, but they will join me. Oh no, it won't work. Okay, so it's Skype that is a piece of crap. Right, okay. So yeah, Caley perhaps needs to sort her audio bits out, but it was doing it for both of them. The error was coming up on OBS for both of them. But yeah, so we've officially started Minor Disaster Games. It's obviously been set up for a little while, but this is our official announcement of Minor Disaster Games, which is the name we're going to be launching the Trouble on the Tempest under, and then anything else future. There's some other ideas in the pipework, but Trouble on the Tempest is our focus. We're going to be at the Games Expo next year again, the UK Games Expo in Birmingham. So that's going to be where we're at next year, and that's going to be our big launch, we think. I'll talk about when they get back on, but that's going to be the game that we have there with a larger proper kind of stand. I suppose we had a little starter stand if you saw us at the Games Expo this year. Liam is back, but Caley is not for some reason. But yeah, that was our plan. So that's obviously that is still our plan, but we are just waiting for 1 second. Let me just mute myself. Right, the Skype call is up again, so let me try and add everyone back in afresh and see if it doesn't ruin everything. The wonders of technology. Oh, the technology. Caley's in.
Hello.
I worry about your position on the screen after I've got you both in. It just brings you in the top corner. Okay, so you guys are both in now.
Okay.
So
And
yeah.
is that working?
Hey, well, it's coming up. The levels are correct on the OBS this time.
But what if I start talking?
Yeah, no, it seems fine.
Okay.
So for some reason before it was broadcasting both your audios through each other as well as yourselves, which is why that you guys were doubled up and I wasn't.
Okay.
So it should be.
I will nod
and
say I understand.
The levels are all square now, so it should be fine. I can't account for why it did that. I can't account for why, but it did do that. So yeah, so now we're good. Apart from Caley's video is bad, but other than that, we're good.
I do.
What did you do? You don't have a webcam. That's what you did.
I'm sorry. I realised it was a requirement to be in this like Q&A. The first one, and you're being mean to me.
Well, as far as I know, and I'll wait for Tone to tell me otherwise, it should be, by the looks of it, doing it correctly this time.
So you are only here.
But yes. So what the hell were we talking about? So yeah, Liam had lots of very serious conversations. Liam spent the expo having lots of serious conversations.
Yeah, and realizing all the things we're gonna have to start considering and everything like that. So I mean, the UK Games Expo, it was weird because this time around, being an exhibitor for the first time ever, we very much got to see like the other side of the expo. So we used to being there as punters, and there being just all the games galore going on and doing all the playtesting and spending all of our money. And it turns out the Games Expo has also this really vibrant business scene behind it all as well. So the whole other aspect of the expo that we kind of like got to exploit, I suppose. So just take advantage of and enjoy that side of things. And it was great. We met some really, really great people. It also just gave us a bit more of an insight into that next stage that we just haven't had a time to think about. We've been spending so much time thinking about the game and the mechanics of the game that actually the logistics of being a company that makes a game is an aspect that we then realized that it was very apparently important that we had our own business image, that we were all investors within, as well as it being a separate entity, so that it doesn't become the dominant factor of Kristian's brain, which would either then govern what that company becomes and all of its legal ramifications. Not that he's being sued by anything at this point in time, but it's early days, guys. As well as it sort of just us all having to fall under that brand, regardless of however the business might move forwards. So we started racking our brains about what other things we could call ourselves and what would be appropriate. And we started just playing around with various different ideas. So we had it was a case of playing around with ideas around this game, Trouble in the Tempest, which is going to be game, so I don't necessarily want to tie it in too tightly with that, but as well as recognizing it as being our real true origin story of the business. So we also wanted to make sure that we reflected that and also honored that, I suppose. So we had loads of ideas, didn't we? We had troublesome games. We tried
we went disaster down a whole beard tangent,
calling it beard, and then we realized that obviously, unless Caley pulled her finger out, she was really being left behind in that name.
At the time, I could do it. I think it was.
We believe in you, Caley.
I think it was like we looked at like beard games, but I think that was like taken. I think we looked at like the Latin for beard, because obviously Tempest is like Latin for time, so we looked at that. We looked at like the Welsh for beard, because I'm Welsh. Like it was none of which we kind of could really settle on, I think.
Yes, it got to a point where it kind of felt a little bit forced, or a little bit too niche of a name to go down that sort of route. I mean, ultimately, if you've walked around, if you've ever been to a games convention, you know that beards are aplenty. So yeah. there's a certain look, and we are that look.
I think the Welsh version of beard was locked in, and we liked that for a while, telling people, we were thinking about being called Locked In Games. And then they were like, Locked In? Is it? And it was again like lots of people like mishearing. And also, if we had like settled on that, we'd have to spend a lot of time like correcting people, which doesn't help with people trying to find us later. If they like meet us at a con and they go, "Oh, what was the name of that company?" and they go, "Oh, I just start trying to randomly spell it on Google or whatever." So, yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up sort of tapping into the idea of, so because Trouble in Tempest has gone through so many different iterations of the game over the years, there's like actually quite like a wealth of things we could tap into for that, because there's so many ideas that have kind of come and gone as part of that game. So, and that's exactly what Minor Disaster is. So Minor Disaster is a little insider nod, I suppose, to one of the earliest iterations of the game, where we had the disaster deck was split between minor disasters and major disasters. And then basically it's sort of like pandemic style. You stack the deck to have so many major disasters and amongst so many cards and everything like that. So you either got a minor disaster or a major disaster when you went to when you drew your disaster at the end of each round. And that's kind of that mechanic still kind of exists in a soft sense. There's still that sort of element a little bit in the game, but it's not so blatant anymore. And having that sort of callback kind of made a lot of sense to us. It sort of felt like tapping into an origin story that we held near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah, it was kind of to transition from the trouble to disaster, kind of like we talked about trouble a lot. As at one point, I think we just said we're just going to name it after the game, which we're like, well, that kind of like that might be a bit much. But yeah, like you say, it came back to disaster.
Finding out.
I kind of remember we were in like a family barbecue, and like Kristian just came out into the garden, and he was like, "Minor Disaster Games," and then he just kind of went, "Yep," and he just left. And I was like, "No."
It does sound like something I would do.
Hey. And I was like, "In what?" I was like, "Oh, do you need company name?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I went, "Okay, let me think on it." And we kind of, I think it took a while for me to kind of go, "Actually, no, that's a really good name." It took a minute. I just like how dramatic it was. So you just went like this and just left. So there's a very easy thing to do.
Yeah, the switch from the game having minor and major disasters was one of the biggest, or definitely the biggest last like final shift, like of all the rules changes, because it had that I think pretty much quite early on, and then right up until sort of late stage when I was just trying to simplify the game, and it just made more sense to sort of mesh them into one.
Yeah, we kind of got to there's a mentality when you designing games is that you just throw rules at a problem, and sort of just like, well, what we'll do is if that bit there is broken, so what we'll do is we'll add in like another thing on top of that to fix that, rather than stripping it back. And the minor major disaster aspect to the deck, I mean, it worked. It was fine and it did sort of technically work. It just, we reached a point where the balancing of those two elements, and then ended up having two completely separate decks as part of the game. It's just reached a point where like, well, what are we even? This has become it's become a monster within itself now. That when it could actually just be something a lot simpler, and the complexities could come in elsewhere down the line. I mean, how have you found the design process, Kristian, throughout these 10 years? I mean, there's certain aspects of it that have obviously very much stayed the same, that became like the core elements that things got built around, but there's been a lot of playing around with fun ideas that we sort of concluded were a little bit more for our own amusement than they were for the game's benefit. So how's that process been?
I mean, it's because it's all about. It's at a certain point it just came down to wanting to simplify the game, and that was all it was. It it was quite a complex in its first iteration. And I'm not we were talking about, me and Caley funny enough, talking about this the other day about editing script work. And I've never been afraid to kill your darlings, as they say, and just kind of just chop stuff out. So, oh, this doesn't work, throw it in the bin. And there's a thing in script writing that I learned that was, if you can delete the first scene and it still makes sense, then don't put it back, and then take out the next, and it just basically just remove stuff until it doesn't make sense anymore. Then you're like, okay, I've got to put that last one back in, because you should always keep it tight. And I think there's a problem these days of just things being a bit overwritten, or just a bit, unnecessary, a bit flabby. So it came down to, like, we got the game to a point where we were like, yeah, it's good. Now we just need to trim the fat, as it were. And then all I was doing was just trying to simplify. It all for like probably the last year or so, is all I've been trying to do is just simplify the game. Just make the deck smaller, less components. Basically make it cheaper to make. Just everything smaller. And yeah, dropping the major disasters deck was a part of that, and just making the minor disaster deck more complicated was just the last kind of big change. But I've not had a problem with it. It's just been what had to be done. Let me see if I can put our logo on the screen. Ta-da! So yeah, does that answer your question? Or did I ramble?
No, that's fine.
That was good.
No, I think there's been there's definitely been during the design process, particularly when we came to the prototyping stage, when we were talking to actual printer, we were talking to proper like manufacturers and everything like that there's an element of like, well, there is a limit of how many tokens you can fit on your sheet that's going to go in your box, or there is a set dimension that if you print your cards at this size, they are cheaper to make than they are if you print them at your own custom size. So it became a lot of a case of trying to streamline into certain conventions that sort of made it logistically make sense as well.
Yeah, do you remember, Liam, how the major disaster cards at one point each came with their own large size rule set?
Yeah,
and their own standees.
Yeah, they kind of you got like you got a major disaster that said please see card F or whatever it was, and then you go and get that card out and like, hey, this is the situation that's happening now, guys. Which is not only like ridiculous in terms of manufacturing, it's also ridiculous in terms of gameplay, because in the original in the original sense of things, the original version, you could have the major disasters didn't conclude themselves. They were like ongoing effects. So we actually like tried playing it. It's like there isn't a table big enough in the world for like what are we expecting people to do with this? So it's just like play it on their living room floor, providing they've moved all of their furniture out. Like it just became this ridiculous monster.
Yeah, but we'll put the back in the black hole and things like that. I remember that was a good one. The ship is being sucked into a black hole and things like that.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely certain. And those are things that we're kind of playing around with now for like expansion ideas and things like that. Like just like rules that aren't like have the core game workable without all the guff on top of it all. And then for people who have played that a few times or want to throw themselves into the deep end, what are the expansions they can be without those being sort of like cumbersome within themselves?
Yeah, I think people appreciate something easy to teach.
Obviously, you guys have been designing it together for like the past 10 years, as you said. Like, how are you guys finding it now? Actually, getting people play testing it that are not like friends and family. How are you finding that process?
It's good to see gamers testing it, because or like more like hardcore gamers like you get at conventions, because they are a little bit more prone to try and break it. So we had a couple of groups at the expo who were like, well, we're going to do this without time traveling. And like, and if they were able to, I would have considered that a failure of the design, but they were not able to. They died horribly. But yeah, they wanted to give it a try. They didn't mind, trying to game theory as much as they could. And some of them did, like one group spread out, picked up every single piece of equipment on the board, and then retreated to do their time jump. And I was like, damn, that's quite impressive. Picked up every single thing that there was on the board before they needed to do their first time jump. So it's good to see people who have very chess brains, who want to really kind of strain the mechanics till they break. Just by testing a video game, really, isn't it? You just kind of want to give it to the hands of people who know where the gaps in the code are, so that they can try and break your game, and then you just try and tweak it a bit.
I think the testing with complete strangers was that it really gives you an idea of the difficulty level of the game, because that's something we've been trying to factor in to the design currently, and still kind of playing around a little bit currently, is how can you have an easy, medium and hard mode of the game? What's the setup for those? And when it's just been yourself playing the game for a while, you just know how to play the game. So there's an element well, if I make it this difficult, so basically I can only win it half the time or whatever, ultimately means that someone who's never played the game is never going to win the game, because you're basically making the game hard for somebody who knows the game inside and out. So that's been a really interesting experience of trying to figure out where the balance is. Because it's tough with a co-op game, because the co-op game is you're playing against the game, so the game itself needs to have a certain level of you're not, if it's a competitive game, you're basically, the game is as hard as the other person who's opposite you is. But with competitive stuff, you have to have that inherent built-in factor that's going to be difficult. So I think playing around with that has been really interesting, and seeing actually how tough the game is to somebody who doesn't know it.
I think it's been fun because we've been doing lots at expos where people obviously sign up and come and play. That when they kind of get to the end, you kind of get them going, oh, I want to sign up again. I want to do it again. Or we've had people at expos, because obviously the UK Games Expos obviously so long. We've had people just kind of sitting up one day by themselves playing the game, and then coming for the next day with some more people to kind of go, you gotta come play this game, and stuff like that is quite fun. It's just seeing people share it with other people.
Yeah, it's nice seeing other people getting passionate about it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So
yeah.
Any questions you want to ask?
Well, let's just we talk about the game for sure, but let's talk about the company. So we found our name in the origin, way back when, old rules of the game. Liam created our lovely logo of our meeple on fire and being electrocuted, which is also, again, very in the spirit of Trouble on the Tempest. I like that we've got I like that that's kind of been our core, and that's don't forget your roots, which is that's a bit sounds a bit lofty for what we're talking about, but yeah, what kind of, how quickly did that kind of spark for you, Liam? Did that kind of idea, because you didn't show us a lot of logos.
I didn't show you a lot of ideas. There were a lot of ideas. Don't get me wrong. There were the ideas I just couldn't quite get to visually work. I suppose the issue, when I was sort of designing it initially, the issues is finding an says board game, because a games company doesn't necessarily mean a games company. It might mean a video game company or whatever. So I wanted sort of a visual that's sort of definitely communicated the fact that we were tabletop gaming. And then when you're in tabletop gaming, what kind of tabletop gaming are you doing? So I had an idea I was working at for ages was, or desperately trying to get work, and I couldn't get it to visually work, was because I really like the idea of someone rolling a dice, and then that die just getting like stuck in the ground and just causing like a massive like earthquake crack. Like I like the idea of like that being like a minor disaster, like kind of like an animation of this dice just going tumble, 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 stop, and then just like this sort of like Ice Age style.
Yeah.
When he's trying to ram the nut into the ice moment, and it just didn't work. It just wasn't a viable idea. And then, so what is an iconic visual of board games? And then the meeple sort of came up, which I then did a lot of legal googling around, because even though that little symbol, the little person himself, is openly pretty much open source, because it's just too prevalent, that you definitely can't say meeple anymore. That's become like a whole legal thing.
Well, I don't
so
know,
it kind of got me really paranoid.
Thing, somebody tried to copyright it. I don't think they succeeded though. But it's a whole
thing.
There's
been a lot of funny legal ramifications about it, and there was I don't know the latest up-to-date stuff about it, but a German company tried to copyright
I think
meeple and
I think they
sued Meeple Inc. I think was the company on that was going through Kickstarter, so had to relaunch itself as something else. I can't remember what Meeple Inc. off the top of my head then became. Player Inc. I think it became, but don't hold me to that. But like the little meeple thing being like a super iconic aspect of tabletop gaming. And then I was like, well, what could be happening to this meeple that would make it a minor disaster? And I quite like the idea that he was on fire and then being electrocuted, which is 100% like not a minor thing to be happening to somebody. Like, and then start playing around the visual for it, and it kind of this design came together quite fast, because once the idea was sort of there, the visual sort of almost starts creating itself.
Caley says, Face says, is Caley's official job title captain? And if not, why not? We do need director titles, don't we? So Caley's captain director.
I will happily take on the mantle of captain. It's an in joke with Face. I also have the carrot in the game, like Pilot Powell, which is like named after me, so I could also be the pilot. Like, I've got options, guys.
I don't know why I did that as the pilot. It's the only character I bothered to like alliterate Pilot Powell for some reason. And I didn't bother. They just I guess maybe I just gave up on that after that. And like, yeah, just name them whatever.
I genuinely think at some point during the design of this game, I said to you, I really want to learn how to fly a plane. And I feel like you might just throw that in your brain and just went, okay, he's the pilot then. Like,
makes sense.
I don't think that's what it is.
So you're jumping over car.
It's not a spaceship.
So you decide to avoid car altogether, Caley. And it's like,
oh no,
it's plane or nothing.
It's worse than that, Liam. Caley can't ride a bike.
I can't do anything on wheels, but I think the plane is.
But you think
air is safe.
So as long as someone gets the plane off the ground and lands it for you, you think in the middle you're gonna be sweet on that.
Yeah.
I just really think I'd be good at flying a plane. That's it. That's it. That's what we do.
We'll get it done one day.
One day.
When we're
one day.
Rich board game entrepreneurs and we have our own private jet. You can be our pilot. What? We'll jet around the world, throwing board games down onto the peasants.
I think we could put that as a stretch goal on Kickstarter.
Caley gets flying.
Caley's first pilot lesson.
Yeah. We broadcast it only if we broadcast it live.
How to not fund a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that'd be fun. But yeah. Oh god.
We're one step ahead of Face and Emily in the chat here, talking about how planes just need wheels to fly and land. Yeah, we're just slightly ahead of you on that one. Yeah. Yeah, well, no. Speaking of that, though, we have briefly mentioned this in our private conversations that we need to like have titles of some kind, just for official purposes. So yeah, we do need to figure that one out. I keep meaning to Google that because it's like, what is the hierarchy of a company? But yeah, we'll figure that.
I suppose it's difficult trying to like decide because we're kind of very much basing it on the roles, I suppose, that we've been doing for the first game that we created. So I think that's what I've been doing is I've just been saying, well, like Kristian's the creator of the game and Liam's the designer of the game, and I've just been doing. I'm just here for like moral support. Woo, go team! And like doing some social media.
You make it sound like it's so easy to become a director of this company. All you gotta be is
just say you like us.
Yeah.
And we'll give you 10%.
And we'll just hand you shares.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like married into the family. I don't know. It just makes me sound worse.
Oh, you've been really you've been really instrumental in terms of like marketing and that aspect of science. So you like don't downplay yourself so much.
Yeah.
I'm completely useless at those things. So if you weren't here, Liam would have gone bald from stress by now. Of just trying to, you don't leave Liam alone to try and control me, do you? Liam to try and get me to do things.
Yeah, exactly. You've married into this now.
I am. Well, I know, but
Emily says you're integral to this entire production. That's nice. But yeah, so I think I almost touched on it when I was just chatting away when I was just by myself when the Skype crashed. But yeah, so the future plans. So in the immediate future, we're going to Playfest on Sunday, which is a big kind of playtesting convention. But ultimately, like the kind of the big, we're going to hit all the conventions, now going forward, or many conventions as we can afford the time and money to actually get to. But yeah, we're kind of thinking, do we want to talk about the Games Expo next year, or are we still keeping that? Do we want to have like a soft idea of what we're going to be doing there? Hopefully, because nothing's confirmed yet. We have applied.
Yeah, nothing's confirmed. Yeah, we've applied for our stand. We're going a bit bigger this time around. We had so for anyone who doesn't know, the UK Games Expo, there's a starter stand set up where if it's your first time exhibiting there, you can apply through their starter package, which you have a little bit less control over what's going on. So it's pretty much the expo sells what it can sell, and then it divides up the space accordingly by what people have bought, and then there will be spaces in between the stands or where they can't quite get the configuration to work, or all these sorts of things, and then people on the starter stand reserve list then get offered spaces accordingly to whatever happens to be free at the time, which is a great system because it's a really good way for first timers to get a discounted rate. Problem that you have is that you're very limited about what you might end up with. So we ended up with a 2 meter by 2 meter stand because that was basically all they had to offer us. At that, we could fit in a table and have a 2 meter back wall that just said our name, and then that was it. We were all a bit crammed in, but we made it work.
We thankfully this time only around, had a wall on one side, because if we had walls on both sides, that would have been
if we had walls on both sides, we wouldn't have been able to fit players in. It would have been an absolute nightmare. So luckily, the game gods smiled on us, and we ended up having an okay setup. We had the person next to us had a free table. We were also doing a gaming table, and then that was meant that we sort of sort of had a soft wall there that we could kind of like play around with depending on who was doing what at the time. This time around, we don't have the luxury of being able to apply for a cheap stand, so we've got to submit an actual application. So we thought, let's go for it, and we've applied for a stand that's over twice the size, with the idea being of getting 2 gaming stations set up so we can have a good rota of people going on. A good level of footfall. Hopefully we're going to get a corner because we've asked for that, so we can have a proper exhibition position that will mean that we can make it our own, properly make it our own. If you've got to pay full price, we may as well pay all of the money. Why not?
All of the money. Yeah, so you request your size, and then there's add-ons, which are whether you want to be on a corner or an end, so you've got 2 open sides, end, so you've got 3 open sides, or an island, so you've got nothing but open sides. Which obviously, like big stands like Disney and Waterstones have islands because obviously they can afford to do that. But yeah, we've went the cheapest of those options was the corner, and we thought it'd be quite nice to try and have a corner. If they say no, you can't have a corner, I'm not going to cry about it, but it would be quite nice to have just that little bit extra freedom.
Yeah, hopefully, because we submitted the application on the day that we could submit applications.
Yeah,
so we couldn't have been any faster.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Fingers crossed, we were one of the earliest applications, so that we'll actually be taken in consideration in those terms.
Yeah, and I booked hotel rooms the day that they came available as well.
The UK Games Expo. If anybody is watching from the UK Games Expo, we love you.
If any of our 7 viewers happens to be someone important at the UK Games Expo.
Yep, that's it. Love you. It was great. I think like this is all. It's all like completely new. Like you said, Liam, I went to the UK Games Expo as just like a normal person that's walking around. And things like Kristian, you've obviously exhibited like a few times. You kind of at least had like the lay of the land, but it was interesting just like how crazy like a really big like board game convention can be. It's really exciting. Like we met so many people. I talked to I think while you guys were doing like quite a lot of the running of the game, I was just like stood outside stand just like flying people and talking to people and just having like thousands of conversations and things. So it was just such a great experience. I just think every time that we go to show the game to people, I'm just kind of like, this is it. This is the fun bit.
Yeah, and we're going to try and I keep looking at my calendar on the wall, but we're going to try and do the convention circuit a bit hard next year. Because it's hard though, man. It's difficult to do. Like Spiel is about to happen. Or has it just happened? I'm trying to look at my calendar.
It's happening
October the 2nd.
2 weeks time, I think.
October the 2nd.
Yeah.
Northeast Tabletop is this coming weekend. Then Aircon is 2 weeks after that. It's just it's a mad. If you'd like hit everything, it would be a mad schedule.
I think there's some things we've just got to say. Like right now, what are we in the position to do? And based on obviously our location, like me and Kristian in London and like Liam's in like the Pagnell areas. So I think that we it's just trying to like figure out what we can like logistically get to. And you see loads of posts about like Essen, and you see loads of posts about like things about like up north, and you just kind of go, maybe we can't get to them this year, but let's make a plan.
But we were talking to a guy who was going to Essen, weren't we? Or was he thinking about? I can't remember if he was definitely going or not, but he was saying like, if you plan for Essen, you need to make sure you've got like $5,000 set aside. We were like, okay, well, we don't.
Yeah.
So. But thanks for the advice.
Decision made.
Because it's a massive thing. And also the other funny thing I thought you said is try and make sure you're in halls 1 to 7 because people might not get further than that. And I'm like, how big is this place? Like if you're in one of the back halls, people might not have time to get to you over the weekend, to walk through to get to you. But I really want to go next year. I really want to go just for fun, not as a company, but just for fun. I think.
What was really nice just thinking about like the map size and people maybe not getting to you, is when we were at the UK Games Expo with our little starter stand, we were in like hall 2. So when they're like on the Thursday, everybody obviously starts from like hall 1 and then comes in, and I was just like, we're going to be waiting a while before anybody sort of comes to us. But we had kind of like two things in our favour. First one was that Kristian you'd already posted on this like YouTube channel that you were going to be at the UK Games Expo and like a bit about the game. So we kind of had people that came to our stand, which was really good. And also we were next to like Darlington Press, right? That's what they call
Darlington Press, yeah, the Critical Roles production house. They'd not been there before, so they I don't know if they obviously hadn't like planned.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
Yeah, they were busy.
People just kind of in the queue, and I was just like, "Why are you in the queue? Do you want to? I talk to you about a game."
Yeah, I mean, they had people arriving from like people went straight there on the day they opened. So we had people next to our stand from like 10 minutes of the place being open. So I remember that the first time we on that Friday, we're like, oh, we don't always be here on the Friday morning. Liam, you can. Why don't you wander off because we each had like because we all board game lovers, so we all went there with like a list of things that we wanted to do if we each had the time. So we tried to divvy up the time of manning the stand so that we all had time to go play test different things. And they said, well, Liam, why didn't you take Friday morning and then figure things out? And I sat down to play test a game, and then immediately got a message from the group, from you guys saying, oh, we've got our first play testers. I was like, we're 20 minutes into the set. We were like 100% thinking like maybe like the second hour we'll get play testers coming through. Completely prepared of how tenacious people at the expo were.
And when I said like to the people who played, I was just like, "Hey, do you play a game?" And they were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, you did? Okay."
I was perfectly prepared for you to say no and me to hand you a flyer. I wasn't. This is as far as my script goes, guys.
It's like, oh yes, Kristian, do you love the game? Okay, now then. I was like, what? Yeah, it was so much fun.
Well, then you come the expo next year, we'll have more of a reputation, as well as being like on the edge of launch.
That's the plan. Oh, and we'll have t-shirts.
That's kind of. I don't know how much you want to say about that, but we're kind of thinking that might be the expo next year might be our Kickstarter launch. Not setting that in stone just yet, but that's what we're kind of thinking at the moment. Just for a little bit so that we can like polish things up a bit and get a bit more of a buzz going on. Because it's our first time doing this, we didn't know. Sometimes we were saying at the expo just gone, we were like, oh, maybe we'll launch by the end of the year, but it's our first time. We didn't really know, what to expect. So we've learned a lot, and we are, I think we're gonna wait until we're in a bit more of a solid position. And it's just good to have. It's just kind of a convenient goal. The expo is just kind of a convenient like marker.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we need to launch until we're ready. It's our first one, and we kind of just want to feel like we're ready to do it. Because people say running anything to do with like crowdfunding is kind of like a full-time job. So it's kind of like getting to that stage. We're just kind of like we can do this until we launch. But also we have met people at a variety of like conventions that we've been to with the game that have launched their Kickstarter, and I just kind of think that sometimes it's quite nice to be able to kind of launch and then automatically be right there in the hub of a board game community to be like, we've launched on Kickstarter, play the game, back the game, that's it.
Have a captive audience element to it as well, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that's a problem. There's an element with expos and with any of those sorts of environments that you leave, like the longer you, as soon as you step outside those doors, like just reality hits you, or like you remember about your work commitments, all these sort of things, and you sort of like you lose momentum over it. So we had such great momentum over over the last expo, and we've almost been sort of like fighting to keep that momentum going, and hopefully we can tap into it again next year.
This is why people hit the convention circuit like crazy, because it just kind of keeps you going.
It's quite nice at conventions to meet other people that are obviously creating board games, that love board games, that are obviously like the people that are exhibiting like next to you, or the people that are exhibiting like around you. I kind of feel like you build up this sense of community, and I think that's what been one of the best things for me, being in like feeling like we're kind of part of a board game community. Because we're new, and you can kind of just turn to somebody and kind of go like, what's your experience with this, or what's your advice with this? Because like what I did at the expo was go have conversations with people. I'd be like, I know you've just had a successful Kickstarter, we haven't done one, we're very new, and I like to have like 2 minutes of your time to like get some advice, kind of thing. So people are more than happy to like share information. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a great community.
Yeah.
But that's us now. Minor Disaster Games. Score. We are officially... There's paperwork involved now. We can't back down.
Yeah.
Paperwork.
We've signed things.
Yeah.
But no, it's very cool. It's exciting.
What's really exciting for me is that I kind of have, because me and Kristian recently got married, I kind of was like, I should try out a new signature for this. This is like, I haven't tried out a signature. I haven't had to sign anything legal. And I was like, this is my time to practice at my new marriage signature. So I have it's really difficult because I have a lot of like surnames now. So I was just like, I write them all out. I was like, no, we're just doing initials.
It's
all day.
It's a very different, because all three of us have done the self-employed thing, and me and Caley were Flitter Films for a while. Caley's Lights Down Productions, which is still active as far as I know. I don't drop you anything there. So we're not like strangers to the world of working for yourselves. But this is a very different vibe. The idea of making a product and selling it is very different to anything that we've done before. Very different to our freelance work and our film work. Because our film work was still independent, a little bit of commercially bits here and there, but it was mostly independent. And this is a very different vibe. It feels I don't want to downplay anything else that we've done, but it feels a bit more grown up. like opening a shop. Like this is going to be like
it's definitely more. It definitely
feels
a lot more. It definitely feels a lot more public facing. 100%. Like I'm a professional web developer and web designer. So, but all of my clients are business clients. Like they're all just my entire. If you're not on LinkedIn, you don't hear anything from me. Like it's basically the angle that I work from. So to have a customer base that's just sort of punters is very, very different. And you have to present yourself in a different way, and there's a lot more things to consider. I mean, ultimately, every product that I make is a digital product that exists only online. So physical media is an entirely new angle, and it's been really fun to get my head around and really fun to learn about, and just really excited to keep going with it.
I think I equate it to a grown-up thing because it's more permanent. I don't really know if that's the right word. It's just like, because everything else we've worked on has been like, here we made a thing, off it goes. Here I made a thing, off it goes. So it's like, we're going to have, I don't know, 10,000 copies of this game that we now have to sell. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to a podcast that had I can't remember his name, the maker of Distilled, the guy who designed Distilled.
Oh yeah.
And he sort of had a very, very successful, because I think Distilled was like his first proper like big
Distilled did
title
well.
that he got published, and it did like crazily well, and he launched a Kickstarter and it funded really well. Like he just had sold loads of them, and he was saying that the thing that he found was that when he went from being that when he was a games designer, having fun designing games, and then had a very successful Kickstarter, and went, oh no, I'm a game distributor now. That's my job. Like.
Yeah.
Like he very quickly swinged, be like, okay, now I've got like all this product and I need to sell this product, so this is now who I am.
Yeah, it's almost like being a shop. A lot of people have said basically you have to treat Kickstarter like you've just opened up a shop, like a pop-up store. It's a shop front. It really is. I've had a lot of people say that. It's not just a funny little thing you do on the internet. No, it's your store. You are selling product.
One of the funniest tips I heard was that when you launch your Kickstarter, take the first 2 or 3 days off work, because you won't think about anything else. like you will achieve nothing during those first 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that I'm just like ready to just book the holiday off and be like, booked it off, not working. It's just
hitting refresh every 5 seconds on a browser.
Answering any like queries that come through and just keep going. So yeah.
Well, I'm slightly more relaxed when I schedule a YouTube video to go out first thing in the morning, because I can just wake up the next morning and it's already out. See, like I can just look at the analytics in the morning. I'm not like there at 4 o'clock going like refresh. Oh, it's not quite out yet. Refresh. Oh, now it's out. So I can just wake up in the morning and be like, I don't really watch my video.
I am terrible with our Kickstarter page and our mailing list. These are 2 things that I've got both the apps installed on my phone, which was fatal. I don't know why I need to delete these things off of my phone, because if I ever find myself having a down moment, I'm like, well, I wonder whether we've got any more followers.
Yep.
And it's just
Yeah. I think watching that number kind of go up, I'm just kind of like, woo, we're on this now. Woo, exciting. And then I think me and Kristian have done crowdfunding in the past for projects, and I kind of remember just how mad that was. I mean, the last time me and Kristian did a crowdfunding thing, we stayed up for, I think we aimed for 72 hours, but I don't think we managed that.
Yeah, we did.
I just remember it was a time where I got, and we were just like, let's try to hit everybody in all the countries. Let's just stay awake. And that was when I just got really addicted to Red Bull, and then my hand wouldn't stop shaking, which was a problem because I was trying to type out tweets and things, and my hands would just do this. And no, I can't even just smell Red Bull without going, oh God, what did I do? Too much Red Bull. Yeah, bad idea.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think it's wrap up for the night. If anybody else wants to talk about, other than say that we still did it. Woo! Reminder of the games. It's here to stay.
The only thing I was going to say is people obviously watching this video want to follow us. It's going to be linked down in in the description. I think it's Kristian's going to say. 2 things in terms of social media. The first one is that we are saying about a community. We're part of a community that's called Board Game Proto Hype, and they have a themed post every week, and we're sort of part of that. So we're going to be posting weekly content on the theme. I was also thinking of doing something that's just for us, which is just us either asking people questions or just asking board game creators and board game audiences the question, and also just posting statements about how things are going. I'm thinking that we're going to do it on the Tuesday. I'm thinking I was kind of going down the idea of calling it Tuesday Truths, but then Liam, you had a better idea. I'm going to say what your better idea was.
Oh, Tuesday.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Because yeah.
I mean, I didn't see it. I was like, hashtag Tuesday Truths. This can't go wrong. So I'm thinking that I don't think we're going to get started tomorrow. This is obviously 24th. I'm thinking like the week after we're going to start with a weekly thing on a Tuesday where we can either be asking some questions you can engage with, or we're just going to like release statements. So it's just going to be like a video of Kristian just going ah.
I mean, I don't want more.
Yes, if you got anything you want to, if you got any questions out there, if anyone's watching this, they want to know further about, then let us know, and we'll add it to our Tuesday feed.
Face did point out that we've just lost our Red Bull sponsorship with our little story of how Red Bull PTSD.
I could tell you a story that might get them back.
Oh, go for it.
Going to finish on that.
So many years ago, I was in Germany with a friend of mine who used to race sidecar motorcycles, and he had a very bad accident, and his driver broke his neck on the field and got rushed off the hospital. I tell you, I promise you, this is coming back to Red Bull soon. So we then had to pack up our camp and basically follow into hospital. He's perfectly fine. He's fully healed. He's okay. But because he had been in the accident, he couldn't drive the car. So I had to drive from southern Germany all the way up to basically on the border with the Netherlands, where he ended up being. Then from there back to Calais, and then over Dover, and then back home again, all in one long straight. And if it wasn't for Red Bull, wouldn't have been able to do it. So thanks, Red Bull. Genuinely, I was driving down the Autobahn just necking cans of Red Bull to make it all the way back, and I did, and then felt fine, 100%.
I've only ever had to do something like that once. We were driving back from Wales, I think. We must have been driving back from Wales, really late at night for some reason. I can't remember what the circumstances were. But yeah, we pulled into a services, and I ordered a black coffee, the biggest grande refillable. I don't know if Starbucks do that coffee from and I don't drink coffee. This is an important part of the story. Is I do not drink coffee at all. And I drank this grande coffee, which is refillable, so I filled it up again because it was a refill drink. And I drank 2 of those, and I have never been so awake in my entire life than that rest of that drive home. I was like, this is what being on crack cocaine feels like. It was an experience, and I've still never drunk coffee since because it was unpleasant. But I needed to be awake to not crash the car. It's important. All right, cool. Well, on that note,
I couldn't have helped with the driving. I could have flown us.
Yes. You could have flown us, if only.
Flown us from Cardiff to London.
Well, that's us. Yes, Minor Disaster Games is our company now. All my Kristian's Brain won't particularly change; it will still be doing its thing. But we've got Facebook and Instagram, and other things will pop up for Minor Disaster Games. We'll be posting about Trouble on the Tempest and stuff like that. I'll still be posting obviously about it in my way, but a more professional way will be on Minor Disaster Games now.
Yes.
And that's the name that you might see going forward at conventions and other events. So keep an eye out for Minor Disaster Games. And yeah, that's good. Thanks for anyone that tuned in. Check out my other videos.
Thanks
There is an actual play of the game itself, Trouble on the Tempest. So the playthrough will be coming up later this week on this channel. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thank you for watching. That's us, I guess. I just have to awkwardly say goodbye now. Bye.
Bye.